What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox, and today we are joined with our guy, Danny Brasco, the king of cricket and the WNBA. Yeah, you heard me. You thought he was a UFC guy, and he still is, but he has been crushing it in the WNBA and cricket. Which, by the way, it was so funny, Danny. You and I were talking yesterday because I was watching your stories. You were so dialed into cricket and the WNBA, and it was just so funny about how we were laughing about how you've been diversifying your portfolio and like how 2024 it is that you're like, screw MLB and NBA, like my money is in cricket and the W.
Yeah, I feel like a hipster, but honestly, like I said to a bunch of people, I'm trading asset classes. Like the MLB and NBA have gotten more difficult to bet, I think, with the influx of bettors. The betting
Oh,
markets are just kind of wacky, and it's been harder to
mhm.
handicap. So I'm going
Yeah.
toward the WNBA, which I found to be profitable, and cricket, which I recently became passionate about. And as you saw in my live, I was going nuts watching this World Cup. That's been a thrilling start already.
It's so fun. I haven't watched any of it, but I was dialed into your stories, and it low key made me want to watch cricket. I didn't know what you were saying or what was happening. It seemed like Team USA had a shot there against India because they upset everyone against Pakistan. Whatever. We'll get into cricket in a minute. Let's talk about the NBA finals. Oh man. I was on the Mavs last night. And when you talk about how hard the NBA is to bet, this finals has been very difficult for me to bet because players have been kind of all over the place in terms of their scoring and rebounds and assists. It seems like every single game, there's no consistency with these top players and what they're doing across the board, at least in those specific markets. I was on the Mavs to win money line yesterday. I thought this was the game that they absolutely had to win. But after the first half, because I do a live betting show as well, I was like, no way, they're not winning this game, and end up losing 106-99. Now they did make it interesting, right? Because Boston led by 21 in the fourth quarter, and then the Mavericks went on a 22-2 run. They got it within, I think, just 1 point at one point. And then Luka fouls out, and they force Kyrie into playing hero ball, and the shots just weren't coming in, and you could just see it just slipping away from them. Thoughts on this game?
Yeah, you nailed it too at halftime. The broadcast team said it perfectly. Like the Mavs had played awesome basketball, and the Celtics were down by one. Like it feels like
It's
even they have to
Yeah.
play perfect, and perfect isn't even
Mhm,
good enough. And then when the
mhm.
refs are against you too, I mean, look, I'm not chalking it all up to their calls, but you can't call ticky tacks on the best player on the floor in Game 3 of the NBA Finals, them
Yeah,
down two. You got
yeah,
to be able to let them play for themselves, and to foul him out on some of those, especially calls I disagree with, Jaylen Brown getting the hook, like
yeah,
it just
yeah.
stinks as a fan in general to see Luka not on the floor in the last 5 minutes of a game they were marching back in. Like you said, that comeback was awesome. So yeah, even when it looked like it was out of reach, they got within reach, and really anticlimactic finish, taking Luke out, and Kyrie didn't have enough by himself. So a great game from Kyrie that we were waiting for. Like you said, if you were trying to attack his player props earlier in the series, you were
Yeah,
disappointed, but he came alive in Game 3.
yeah.
Even 35 from Kyrie in a game where Luka's hobbling around, doing everything he can and
Yep.
fouling out, like what's left for the Mavs to do? That was their shot, Katie.
Yeah, Kyrie Irving, 35 points and 4 three-pointers. So it was really good to see him come alive again. But then you look at Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I mean, we've said a lot on this show and other shows that Jason Tatum, at least scoring in this NBA Finals, has left a lot to the imagination. Like, he hasn't been doing a lot. Now he has been a really good playmaker in this series, but he really stepped up in this game. And him and Jaylen Brown combined for 61 points. The rest of the team just had 45. So you think about those games 1 and 2 when Tatum just the ball wasn't going in. He wasn't scoring, and then now you look at this, and with him and Jaylen Brown, that 1-2 punch, like you said, the Celtics are just so deep, even without Porzingis, even without their best rim protector. It didn't matter, and I really thought that the Mavericks role players were gonna step up better at home, but they just weren't passing the ball at all. It just seemed like they nothing was going on that way, and, I think Boston can sweep them at this point. I don't know that, the Mavs can push this to game 5.
I think the betting narrative around it will be that, oh, it's bad for business. The NBA wants more games, right? Advertising dollars. The more games, the more
Well, then
money.
get your refs in check. Don't foul out the best player
Well,
on
right.
the Mavs.
Because in tandem with that narrative is, oh, it's rigged. The refs are giving it to the Celtics. But if both are the case, then those two things both can't exist, right? Like, do
Right,
they want more games, or are they giving it to the Celtics? So at this point, I'm
right.
not going to bet on a narrative like that. I'm just saying that's sort of what you'll hear in the betting community about the next game. And look, it's basically a pick 'em right now. If I'm going to lean one way, I kind of want the under. This series has been playing out
Mhm.
lower scoring games, and it's either going to be maybe like you said, the Mavs got nothing left. It's a blowout and they don't score anything, and this game goes under, or maybe it's a war to the bitter end and defenses lock in and it goes under a total of 211.5. So if I got to lean one way, it's that way, but I don't really want to pick a side because maybe there's no airs in the tire left there.
I tell you what, I took the Mavs with the points, in the first game, that blew up in my face, and then I took them in game 3, that blew up in my face, so I'm taking Boston. Boston is 15-2. That is their record in the postseason. They've only lost 2 games. They have won 10 straight. They're 7-0 on the road in the postseason. And like you said, this under I think is good because Dallas under 100 points and under 10 three-point field goals, made in every game of this series. I mean, the Boston defense has just been absolutely suffocating, and now you've woke up Jason Tatum, and he's starting to play good, and you've got a really injured Luka, who's, by the way, I mean, just bad defense on their end too, though. You can't. Yes, we could blame the refs, we could whatever, but Luka's got to be smarter than that. You cannot foul out and play that kind of basketball and defense if it's a game 3 and a must-win game.
Yeah, I mean he's also hurt.
Like, you gotta clean it up. I mean, he's only fouled out, what, twice in his entire career in the NBA and never in the postseason.
Yeah, I think he's also hurt. He's doing his best. He doesn't have like
Yeah,
that lateral side to
true.
side movement. And then when he does getting these 50-50 plays, I thought one of those was a charge. I thought the other was should have been overturned on that hook play I mentioned before. Nonetheless, he gets 2 called against him. That's 6 fouls instead of 4. He's out of the game. And yeah, we were talking about the role players before. I think they're just trying to press too hard and do too much. Like the role
Yeah.
players on the Celtics, their depth is insane and they're all clicking. And then when PJ Washington and Derek Jones try to answer at the other end, they're going up to the to try to go for a layup against 3 guys and getting swatted. Or it's just it looks forced. And at this point, yeah, the scoring is not able to keep up.
So, we can talk about who's to blame for the Mavericks' loss, and I just think it's the Celtics. I think the Celtics are too good and too deep, but I have to play, a little game with you here. Let's say Luka does not foul out. Do the Mavs steal that game?
You got to think they do. And the
I
momentum was
know.
swinging back so heavily. There's 5 minutes left, so it's a lot of game
A
time.
lot of time.
And so maybe they don't, right? I mean, we saw the Celtics in
But there was momentum there with them, and then it just
that's for sure. But I will argue for the Celtics games 1 and 2 against the Pacers. I mean, those looked
yes.
convincingly like the
Yes.
Pacers were going to take those back, and then all of a sudden they snatched the momentum right back. So, yeah, it looks like the Celtics just even when they're not playing their best, are still winning games, and when they are playing at their best, it's not competitive. So, yeah, I was hoping the Mavs would win this series, Katie. I'm sad.
Which, do you think that there's a Western Conference team that would have been better matched to go against the Celtics that maybe wouldn't have got swept?
Maybe the Nuggets, right? Because I feel like if
Yeah,
you want to argue the
yeah,
Wolves defense would have been better, fine, you can make that argument, but I don't think their offense would have been able to hang. If the Mavs
no,
offense is struggling, the Wolves certainly would have run into trouble. They would have been putting up in 70, 80 point games maybe and lost by 30 or 40 in one of these.
yeah.
So you got to think maybe the former champs would have been more competitive, but yeah, maybe that's all I got because the Celtics I think would have been champs against anybody.
Well, when you think about this Celtics team, when they win, not if they win, when they win the title this year, it'll be their 18th championship. It'll be the most in the NBA, surpassing the Lakers. They're currently tied with them right now. Where would you rank this Celtics team amongst, I guess, maybe the all great Celtics teams or just even the all great NBA teams? Is it even that impressive of a team?
Like weirdly not. I mean, and it
Right?
is.
Isn't that awful to say?
They're like boringly good. And yeah, this is going to be like, I guess maybe it feels lame to me. And I'm
Yeah.
obviously a New Yorker, so Boston is elated. You guys will be
Yeah.
overjoyed and hate this take. But I don't know. The team is just perfectly constructed, to be honest. Like credit to Brad
Yeah.
Stevens, GM now. And
But they're not exciting. I don't know. It's not like watching the Showtime Lakers or
right.
when Kobe was playing or even the Warriors when you had Steph and Clay, like the Splash Brothers. Like there's nothing happening. I mean, the defense is really good and maybe that's it. And that, they've only lost 2 games in this postseason. not excited by it though.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not like they don't have talented, exciting players.
Yeah.
They're dunking the ball, they're splashing threes, but for whatever reason, like a lot of people are not overly entertained or enthralled or
Interesting.
magnetized to any one of these players. Jason Tatum isn't like necessarily people go gaga for him. He's a great player, but his play style, Joe Mazzulla said that too. His play style makes it so that even when he's like doing all the right things and playing well, it might not look like that all that exciting. So maybe he's just a victim of his own style and aesthetic. But in
Yeah.
any case, yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm not in love with this team anyway. So congrats to them. They're awesome, perfectly
Yeah.
constructed roster, but
Yeah.
they don't do it for me.
Yeah, they're not as entertaining. That's exactly what it is. They were the best team all season long, but and maybe just because they won so easily in the East and everybody thinks they got an easy path because of, some injuries that they ran into from other teams along the way. But yeah, there's just and then maybe just that this series isn't that exciting. So we're not even seeing the best of them, right? Because they're just whooping on this poor Dallas Mavericks team.
Yeah.
But like you said, this line for game 4 is a virtual pick 'em. I tell you what, if I'm a Mavericks fan and I have tickets to this game 4, I don't even want to go. I
Oof.
don't even want to go. I'm selling that ticket. I'm trying to recoup some things because there is nothing more depressing than paying a ton of money to watch your team get swept in the playoffs. But okay. Boston is favored -1. You could take a -115 on the money line. Total 211.5. I'm taking Boston in this one. I'll take them. I'll take them minus the one. I think they're going to win by a lot more than that. And then you're going to take the under in this one. When we revisit NBA Finals, I feel like it was you and I. It might have been somebody else, but we were both on Luca. That ain't happening now. Who from the Celtics is it? Is it Jason Tatum now a lock because he had that high scoring game and he had so many assists and rebounds in the other games? A good facilitator. Are you locking in on Jason Tatum now, or maybe who else from the Celtics?
I believe
Brown?
Is Jaylen Brown the live favorite right now? Last I saw,
Is he?
he was minus
It
350
flipped?
the last I saw. I don't know if that was before last
Yeah,
game.
let me see.
But like you said,
You
Jason Tatum finally big scoring output, so maybe that gets him back in the conversation. But yeah, I mean, it's a toss up between the two of them right now. I guess I'm not. These awards are tricky, right? Because what are they favoring more? Is it scoring or is it all around team play? Tatum's plus 260, Brown's minus 350 from our producer live right now. So yeah, I mean,
Wow,
Brown
that
won the
flipped.
Eastern
Yeah.
Conference Finals MVP, right? Maybe they like what he's doing for the club more. So
I
yeah, I
like
don't know.
Jaylen Brown.
Tatum not putting in the buckets that we thought, right? He's just kind of being that facilitator and doing everything. Maybe they give it to the guy that's getting the baskets for him. So yeah, I'll go Jaylen Brown, obviously, with those live odds.
We had Frank Michael Smith on a couple days ago, and I learned so much about Jaylen Brown and how impressive he is, just as a human being and a scholar and academic. And I hope this for him. Why not add one more thing to his storied resume of interesting facts? All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we come back. We are hitting Danny with the WNBA and cricket. People, you're not going to miss it. We'll be right back. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Back here on Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook with our guy Danny Brasco. And I told you at the top of the show, this guy's been money in the W and also in cricket. We'll start with the WNBA, get some picks tonight. There are 3 games. We got the Seattle Storm laying 6 versus the Dallas Wings, the Atlanta Dream laying 2, just a bucket there, versus the Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark. The Las Vegas Aces are laying 6 against the Phoenix Mercury. Any bets on tonight's action? What do you like?
Katie, I got a bet in every game on the slate, so I can give you a little action wherever you're looking on this WNBA slate. Like I told you, I've been loving this league and getting to know it and really dialed in. So I feel like I got a beat on these teams, and I like the slate tonight. The first one, of course, ESPN prime time. Caitlin Clark. Everyone's going to watch the
Mhm,
Fever versus the Dream, which, by
mhm.
the way, is an awesome teams to play each other. Like the Fever Dream, it's pretty. That could be one
Ah,
team. I
yes.
love that.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps for the offenses, they could be in a little bit of a fever dream. I'm going to go with the under 165 in that game. Ha 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 ha. Good pun, Danny. But I think that first of all, teams get up to play against Caitlin Clark,
Oh
and
god, do they?
yeah, right. They really kind of get that gritty edge. Oh, Caitlin Clark's coming in,
Sure thing. Yeah.
and the Dream are coming off a pretty disappointing loss. They play in some scrappy, gritty games, and they have one of the worst shooting percentages in the league. Of course, the
Mhm.
Fever don't have great defense themselves. They play in a blitzing style. Caitlin Clark chucking up the threes, but I think this 165 total is a shade higher than you see in a lot of their games. They're going to end up playing kind of in the 150s. So look for a scrappier game. Teams that get up for Caitlin Clark games, and I think it could be a close one. The odds are the line is pretty close, only -3. A lot of the time, the Fever have been overmatched in their early season, but this could be a close competitive game. So look out for that one. That one's fun.
Well, I think this is a game that the Fever can actually win, because if you look at this Atlanta Dream Team, and you kinda nailed it, they got worked by the Mystic. Absolutely worked by the Mystic, and let's not forget, the Mystic actually had Caitlin Clark looking like Iowa Caitlin Clark. That's when she had 7 threes, was doing the hearts in the crowd and all the thing that she used to do, and so, both of these teams are bad, right? I mean, both of these teams are bottom of the league. They haven't seen each other so far in the regular season, but, Indiana did defeat the Dream in the preseason. Not that it means too much here. Atlanta just 1-3 straight up in its last 4 games, and also 1-3 against the spread. The Fever have won 2 of their last 4 straight up. So I think, the Fever are dogs here, but I think this is one that they can actually win, which, I don't say all the time.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't pick a side because I think it's going to be a tight one. Like they're definitely live here, and the Dream coming off. The Mystics were winless before that. They were 0-11. So finally, they gave the Dream or the Dream.
It's the only team worse than the Fever, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
they were doing really bad. So and they got blown out in that one. Mystics had to have a game at some
yeah,
point. But I think coming off that game, they'll probably look to be competitive in this one, have some pride. So
yeah.
that's a good one to start. And Katie, there's another one I like too. The Aces are playing the nightcap, and the Vegas
Mm,
Aces are the defending champions.
good.
I think they'll cover the -5.5 tonight. They got slammed by head coach Becky Hammond in their last game. They've lost 3 straight home games, and she eviscerated them. Their defense has been really bad. They've certainly not been the same team without star guard Chelsea Gray, who's
Yeah.
going to come back at some point, but they still have an embarrassment of riches of talent. Asia Wilson and Kelsey
Oh,
Plum, Jackie
you look
Young.
at the Olympic team, it's like the Aces and then a few other people.
Literally, literally. So this team is just too good to keep sliding, and they're the favorite still tonight for a reason. They're playing the Wings, who have pretty good offense. There's some good players on the Wings, but their defense is lacking. I see them getting a lot of games where there's just a lot of holes on defense. So this Aces offense is too talented not to exploit it. And I think they can cover 5.5 if they kind of get up and Becky Hammond gets them right for this game. They should win by 10 plus. So I like the -5.5.
Real quick though, I think
Oh,
they're
sorry.
playing the Mercury.
I totally flipped that. I meant to say the Mercury, not the
Yes,
Wings.
yes,
Who
yes.
the Mercury?
Well,
What I got? Sorry, I got confused because the Mercury
no, but I
played.
mean, look at the Seattle Storm is also laying 6 against Dallas, so similar spreads there.
Yeah, Katie. Sorry, let me run that back. The Mercury played the Wings in the last game. That's what I
Mm,
meant to
mhm,
say.
mhm.
And I bet on the Mercury -1. They gave me a sweat. That went to double overtime. And the Mercury didn't play a very good game, to be honest. They still won that game in double overtime against the Wings. So coming off double OT loss in a game they probably should have won, they were up
Yeah.
late. I'm going against the Mercury. I like the Aces for that reason.
Okay, so you're laying the 6 with the Aces. You're gonna take the under in the Dream versus Indiana. I think Indiana can win this game. What are you looking at for Seattle versus Dallas?
Yeah, so that's where Dallas is playing. Sorry for the confusion, guys. And what they do poorly is struggle against really good guards. And Jewel Lloyd for the Seattle Storm is a fantastic guard. She can drop 20 points even when she's not shooting very efficiently. And she's been struggling a little bit from beyond the arc, pretty bad numbers, but regression to the mean, right? She's going to start making them. And I think she's going for 25 plus points tonight. That's at plus 210, Katie. The over on 20.5 points is -120. Add 5 points to that. We're getting plus 210. I
Yeah.
like Jewel Lloyd to do her thing tonight. So add a little sprinkle on that prop for plus money on Jewel Lloyd points.
I love that. Okay, so Jewel Lloyd is someone that we should be looking at. Is there a player that you've kind of zeroed in on scoring? I mean, I know Caitlin Clark, you faded her a few times, and that's been profitable for you in the scoring market. Is there a player that you just like to fire on in the W?
I like Jewel Lloyd. Alyssa Thomas, who's an
Mm,
all-around player, triple-double machine. I like her getting rebounds. She's just always
okay.
attacking the glass and kind of hunting those like 50-50 loose balls. So she's been cashing rebound props. I like picking sides and totals more than props, but if I do, yeah, like I'm going for a veteran, player that I
Yeah.
know can get buckets, like Jewel Lloyd, someone like that, or just a dog on the glass who can baby them.
So the Fever do have a rematch against the Sky, Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark coming up this Sunday. Any early thoughts on that game? The Fever were able to edge out Chicago in their last meeting. Do you think Chicago gets some revenge here?
They very well could. I liked the Sky last night, plus 7.5, and they lost by 8, Katie, at the very
Yeah.
last second. Such a brutal miss by the hook. But I still was impressed with them. And Angel Reese dropped 20 points. I was almost going to sprinkle that live. It was plus 370, and she got there. She looks really good in her rookie campaign. All the talk is of Caitlin Clark, but Angel Reese is playing really good basketball. She leads rookies in rebounds per game. She's attacking the glass, getting second chances. So I think her gritty play style could have success against a Fever team that gives up rebounds. It's weak inside. I think maybe the Sky get their revenge. I'll look to see what the spread is. If they're short favorites, I'll bet them.
It's going to be an electric game, though. Everybody likes to watch those rematches, and a lot of people came after Angel Reese for saying that she helped build the league, and it's not just about one player. And as much as I don't agree with that entirely, I do think that the rivalry between the two has been good for sports, fun to watch. People tune in. Now, do I think one person is more popular than the other? I do, but credit where credit is due. That rivalry that was built in college still has people excited in the W today. So let's get into what the people really came to watch, Danny, and that is the World Championship of Cricket. And look, maybe a lot of Americans didn't know too much about cricket, but then all of a sudden, the Americans beat why am I blanking on Pakistan?
Pakistan.
Yes, beat Pakistan. And then they went up against India. I would assume the only that India, well, I have a couple friends who are very into cricket, and they are from India, and so I know that that's a very popular sport there. So you would think that the Americans would not stand a chance against India. However, they did.
Yeah, they put up a decent fight. They scrapped in the end. India kind of won fairly comfortably, but for a large part of that game, the U.S. was in it. They were plus 1,400, I believe, and live at a certain point they were like plus 275. So they made it a good effort, but eventually India was too much. They just got overmatched. But it's been a really fun start to the Cricket World Cup. Of course, Americans are being introduced to it. Katie, they're playing in Long Island in New York. Like a lot of the matches are happening there. Some are in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. They're being
Cool.
hosted a bunch in the USA. So people are going to learn about the sport. It's like wacky version of baseball, and I've been really enjoying teaching people about it. I'm pretty newly educated about it myself, but very passionate because I love betting it. It's a lot of fun. And this T20 format is like the fast version of cricket. Has a lot of people
It's like a
excited about.
pitch count, or what does that mean?
It's like there's the original version of cricket is called Test cricket, and that's the one that can take multiple days. You got to get 10 outs, 10 wickets, and the game doesn't, or your turn batting
Okay,
doesn't
yes.
end.
I had a friend once trying to explain cricket to me, and yes, it was over multiple days. I'm like, "What do you mean? Who was watching one match over multiple days?" And like,
Yeah,
do you just go to one day or do you go to all 3 days? And he was trying to explain it to me, and I didn't get it. Okay, so T20 is
T20
what?
is
Just
the and
a
that's
few hours.
what's amazing about Test cricket, Kate, that multi-day format. There's like lunch, there's tea, there's all sorts of like etiquette and breaks. It's hilarious.
Oh,
It's amazing.
okay.
But T20 is more like the fast version. Each team gets 20 overs. It's almost like an inning or a frame to bat,
Okay.
and you got to run up the score as much as you can in your turn to bat. So in your 20 chances, so it goes much quicker. It's like how baseball is trying to make rules to make the fans more excited about it. Cricket's doing the same thing, and this World Cup is the T20 format.
So, if anyone is new to cricket, which I assume most people watching this or listening to this are new to cricket, but they want to get on the action, they see you cashing some bets here. What should you look for when betting cricket? Like, what is the teams that do this mean that?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I like live betting cricket more than anything because the
Okay.
way that it works is the match begins, and just like the NFL, there's a coin toss to see who's going to start batting first. And only once that's determined, then do a lot of props in the market come out because they don't know who's going to start the game batting, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
right away, all the live props come out. How many runs is this team going to score? And because the game takes a while and there's a lot of opportunities to score or get out, you can bet kind of just like NBA, how it's a game of runs. A team scores 20 and then the other team answers back with a 20-0 run. Cricket can be very similar, right? So
20?
that I'm saying like a 20-0 run in the NBA, right? Think of
Oh,
something like
okay,
that.
okay. I'm like,
And
"Oh
all of
my
a
god, how
sudden,
many?"
right? And all of a
Yeah,
sudden, you can bet a team, as a big underdog. You can do the same in cricket and something like that. So
right.
you can try to catch wild swings in the live betting market, and the same can be said on the money line. So I'll be looking to bet this USA versus Ireland game, Katie, on Friday, which
Ooh.
is going to be super exciting in the group stages to determine who moves through.
So when they move through, what's the next stage?
It'll be the Super 8 stage, just like the
Ooh,
World Cup. This is the group
okay, yep,
stages.
mhm.
And the USA actually having a really good showing, battling through. And their dogs against Ireland, Katie. Ireland's had a pretty disappointing showing. I don't know why they made the USA dogs. I mean, I know we're not cricket powerhouses by any means, but this team has showed some talent and some real ability. I mean, they beat Pakistan. Of course,
Yeah,
Pakistan made a lot of blunders in that game, and they scrapped it
hey,
out against India. Like Ireland lost to Canada. We
yeah,
beat Canada. Like
yeah.
we can beat them, and I think we have the more talent perhaps. If you look at the way these teams have played in the group, so I'm going to take them as plus 126 dogs. Katie, go
Well,
USA.
I was watching your stories yesterday, and I did see when the USA blundered it, the guy had an easy catch. Um, and so, yeah, the USA had a chance. All right, so you're gonna look to bet, live bet, most likely USA versus Ireland. Any other cricket matches that we should be looking at, or are you just kinda dialed into the USA right now?
Well, no, I'm looking all over. I mean, we play everywhere. I was just live betting a game that was on just a second ago between Bangladesh and the Netherlands. Like I'm. Oh, actually, my bet's
Meet
looking
Gen
good.
Nation.
Oh, 100%. And like I said, the matches you have time to get in on the action. I got under 154 and a half runs. I'm looking good.
Well, okay, first of all, because when you first explained this in baseball terms, 150 runs sounds insane.
and our
How
producer
many
right now,
times are these people crossing the proverbial plate?
Tucker in the chat, 154 runs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way it works is not like a baseball run. It's not like you got to work your guy around the
Okay.
diamond. You can get a run in much more simple fashion. But I would say in this tournament, just to understand like what a good score and what a bad score is, if you get less than 100 runs in a game, you're probably going to lose. Like that's
Okay.
a very low score. So
Okay.
and similar to baseball, football, the field has a major impact. What ground they're playing on, how the weather impacted the pitch, how was the ball bouncing. All those things are similar. So you can kind of take your knowledge from other sports and apply it to a lot of cricket aspects and kind of quickly grasp the game from baseball to, like I said, the field conditions and the coin toss. It's a lot of aspects that'll be familiar to people that jump into the game. They'll see these crazy numbers and get a little 154. I'll never get this game. Just sit and watch for it for a second, hang out with me, and you'll be loving cricket in no time.
Yeah, make sure you follow Brasco Bets on social media, because he is watching all these things. He is sharing highlights, on his stories and talking about what's going on. So yeah, hang out with him if you want to learn about this. And I will say, you got the World Cup, World Championship happening right now, but also the Olympics will have cricket. So maybe get your feet wet right now, and then you can continue to bet it in Paris. Which country do you have winning the World Cup?
Man, I don't want to give like chalk because that's boring and you want to give out like something fun. And at this point, Katie, I don't know. I mean, India has shown they were the favorites coming in and they're just like a cricket powerhouse, of course. But I was a little bit, maybe it was just a bad like performance, but I thought they were fairly disappointing and pretty subpar against the US. So my favorite player is an Indian player. His name's Jasprit Bumrah. He had a bad showing.
Oh,
So
what a
I want
name.
if the US can't do it, which I don't think they will, that would be the upset of the millennium.
Century. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I think India will end up being too strong when they come into their form against everyone.
Right.
But there's a lot of other teams that are alive. I kind of like who do I kind of like Australia to be there at the end as well. Australia is a really good team, and that's a league that I was betting. I know some of their players well,
Yeah.
so I like the Australian guys.
I love this. All right. So if you want to get your day gen on, make sure you follow at Brasco Bets, on social media, because he is betting and he is winning on cricket, people, also in the W. Danny, always a pleasure to have you on here. Again, follow him at Brasco Bets on social. He gives out a pick of the day as well. So tag along and make some money with my guy. Danny. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. We'll see you next time.